Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and join me in welcoming Sal Gonzalez.
All right. Thanks a lot, folks. You're going to make me blush. Sit down. All right, folks. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for having me. The Louisiana Men's Health Organization for having me. Alan for being a gracious host. And I want to introduce you to my friend Taylor. Taylor is my girlfriend, my confidant, and my best friend since I was about 13 years old. And take that off. Taylor has saved my life more times than I can mention. I grew up in East Los Angeles, California. Pretty bad neighborhood to grow up in. Lots of gangs, lots of drugs. Lots of bad opportunities to get into trouble. And music kept me out of it. I was a songwriter, not a gang member. And I played gigs on the weekends to make money, so therefore I didn't sell drugs. I didn't know how much Taylor actually meant to me and how much music meant to me until after I was injured, because I can tell you right now that if it wasn't for music and if it wasn't for my ability to put my emotions and feelings on paper, I would have put a bullet in my head a long time ago. On October 21st, 2003, I joined the United States Marine Corps. And a little less than a year later, I found myself in Al-Ramadi, Iraq, as a machine gunner with 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, the most decorated battalion in the Marine Corps. I was there 2 months. And on October 31st of 2004, for those of us who are counting, a year and 10 days into my enlistment, I was hit by a roadside bomb. Now, this wasn't exactly new to me. I'd been blown up 6 times before this. And most of those times, they were doing good to scratch my paint. But on this particular day, they hit the right spot. I went from standing inside the Humvee to sitting inside the Humvee and not knowing exactly what had happened. My lieutenant was slumped over in his seat. My assistant gunner was passed out. My driver was passed out. And my leg was bloodied and in tatters. I tried to stand up to get back on the weapon because most of the time the insurgents would hit us with a bomb and then try and ambush us afterwards. So I needed to get up and protect the rest of my Marines. Well, as I stood up, my leg bent at the shin. And I knew I was going to have a bad day, so I just sat back down. Shortly thereafter, the corpsman showed up, our medic, and he pulled everybody out of the vehicle, got everybody stabilized, pumped me full of morphine, which I was grateful for, and took me to a field hospital. At the field hospital is where I realized that my lieutenant had died. Lieutenant Matthew D. Lynch of Long Island, New York, was, in my opinion, the greatest officer to lead men in combat that has ever lived. Then again, I'm a little biased. They wheeled me in and I saw a body bag and I knew it had to be the lieutenant. And then they wheeled me past my assistant gunner, Kenny, who was kicking and screaming and fighting the doctors to get off of him because he couldn't breathe. He thought they were pushing down on his chest, and unfortunately, both of his lungs had collapsed due to shrapnel wounds. I looked to my right and I yelled at him. I said, "Kenny!" And he stopped for a second and looked at me, and I said, "It's okay, it's going to be okay, just relax." And it gave the doctors just enough time to pin his hands to the operating table and save his life. Not long after that, I fell asleep on a helicopter. And I woke up in a hospital bed with my father, mother, brother, and sisters around me. And I had a couple questions for them. I said, A, what are you guys doing in Iraq? And B, where's my weapon? Well, they calmly explained to me that I'd been injured and I was in the States. I was in Bethesda, Maryland. I'd been asleep for a week. And although they didn't have my weapon, they did have Taylor. Now, after a week of being in a coma, your muscles tend to atrophy if you're not using them. If you don't use it, you lose it, right? And so I picked up Taylor and I tried to play, and my fingers didn't want to do what I wanted them to do. And I remember sitting in the hospital bed telling the nurses, I swear, I'm good, I promise. But after a while, I got better. And I knew I was going to be fine. When they told me that they were going to have to amputate my leg, it really didn't bother me too much, because my grandfather, at 80 years old, had to amputate his left leg below the knee, right about the same place that I'm missing mine. Lucky break, right? I saw him run the family business for another 9 years before he finally passed away. Up and running around, and that was with Stone Age technology, where you held the prosthetic on with a leather belt. So I figured I would do fine. Unfortunately, a lot of my fellow Marine soldiers, sailors, and airmen that were in the hospital with me, they didn't have that confidence. They didn't see that in their family. So they all thought they were going to be cripples. And I remember the day they took my leg, I wheeled myself into Sergeant Ramirez, or Corporal Ramirez at the time. Isaiah is his name. I wheeled myself into his room and I said, hey, Isaiah, they took my leg. And he was missing his right leg to a rocket-propelled grenade. He was having a rough time. His wife was 9 months pregnant, or had just had the baby while he was in intensive care. She didn't know how to deal with it. He didn't know how to deal with missing a leg. He went from being a 10-foot-tall bulletproof Marine to being in a wheelchair. And as I wheeled myself in and I told him, they took my leg, he looked at me and I could see the tears starting to fill his eyes, and he said, man, I'm sorry. And I said, that's okay. You want to know why? And he looked at me and he goes, why? What could possibly be good about this situation? And I said, dude, you're missing your right leg. We could buy shoes together. And he laughed. His wife laughed. The baby laughed. And just like that, I saw his whole demeanor change. He became nice to be around. Him and his wife started talking. And it was then that I kind of caught the bug for helping my fellow veterans. It was in the hospital that I was introduced to Wounded Warrior Project. I got a backpack. At the time, Wounded Warrior Project was just sending backpacks to the hospitals with comfort items, T-shirts. When you come back wounded, they cut everything off your body, so you're in a robe and you own nothing. So they give you some T-shirts, some underwear, a CD player, socks, which lasted me and Isaiah twice as long. And I didn't really know it at the time, but having those things really helped everyone's morale, not only my own. Wounded Warrior Project took me whitewater rafting for the first time. I went rock climbing with a prosthetic leg for the first time in 2005 with Wounded Warrior Project. In 2008, I went on a soldier ride, which is a program that Wounded Warrior Project has that puts veterans on, returning wounded veterans on bicycles some of them missing both their legs, and rides them around different towns all around the United States for about 20 to 30 miles a day for a long weekend. I could sit here and I could talk about all the different programs that Wounded Warrior Project has. But the best thing that they have is us. We are the best thing for each other. We talk to each other. We keep in touch. We share each other's secrets. We know what we've been through. And the greatest thing that Wounded Warrior Project has ever given me has allowed me to become a resource for my fellow veterans, my fellow warriors. When I left the Marine Corps in 2006, I moved to Nashville, Tennessee to write music. I figured since I couldn't shoot machine guns anymore, might as well do the only other thing I was good at. And so I went through kind of a hard time coming back. I was a musician. I drank a lot. It's not uncommon. Unfortunately, I was going through about a fifth of Jack Daniels every other night so that I could go to sleep. That wasn't self-medication. That was being a rock star. Or so I reasoned with myself. And it was around 2008 that I was at a benefit for a fallen Marine's son to help him go through college, to help pay for his way through college. And I was wearing shorts, and it was kind of a walk. And as we were walking, a lot of people kept coming up to me and saying, "Hey, son, you're a hero. Thank you for your service." And something about that really rubbed me the wrong way. Not the thank you for your service part, but the hero part. I was just doing my job. I didn't do anything special. Lieutenant Matthew D. Lynch. That guy's a hero. Sean Langley. Andrew Halverson. Pat Raptical. Those are just 4 names out of the 15 men that we lost in our Ramadi, Iraq in 2004 and 2005. 10 of those came from my company. 10 of those were my friends, my pals. We ate together. We lived together. We drank together. They were my best friends. They were more than friends. They were brothers. It's hard to explain to somebody who's never been in the military, but if you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know that the guys you serve with are closer than family. And those guys are heroes. Those guys are my heroes. There's no way I could ever live up to that standard. And how dare somebody put me above them? So I went home that day and I wrote a song called Heroes. It was around 2009 that Wounded Warrior Project gave me a call and said, "Hey, we're doing a benefit concert in Nashville for Soldier Ride. Do you want to play it?" I said, "Sure." So I showed up. And who else is playing it, or who am I opening up for? Does anybody like country music in here? Anybody ever heard of a guy named Trace Adkins? Yeah, that's who I was opening up for. No pressure. Grammy award-winning artist and the dude that's opening for him, Gimpy. So I get up on stage and I do my 2 or 3 songs. I finish with Heroes. And I got a standing ovation, and it was a really cool feeling. And Trace Adkins got up and did his set, and he didn't get a standing ovation, and that felt even better. But the best part of all that was meeting with the warriors that were on that soldier ride and them coming up to me and shaking my hand and thanking me for putting their thoughts on paper, for putting their feelings into a song and sharing that with as many people as I could. I've been very blessed in my life. As you can tell, I like to talk, I like to make jokes, and I found somebody to pay me for it. No, I found a way to use that to help people. I'm very lucky to be up here today. I want to thank each and every one of you for giving me your time. Thank you to the board of directors for allowing me to come up here and speak to your folks. Thank you, Master Sergeant Martinez, for doing the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to leave you with a song. I know this thing's not plugged up, so you're probably not going to be able to hear the guitar too well, but I'll do my best to belt it as loud as I can. I apologize in advance if I'm out of tune. Well, they threw him a party the day that he got home, when they called him a hero, but he felt all alone, surrounded by his family and all his friends but one. Oh, he lost him in that country to a buried roadside bomb. When his dad stood up and said, "Our hero has returned," he looked down at his scars and his purple heart and said, "Dad, you know that hurts, 'cause I don't mean to not sound grateful, 'cause the good Lord knows I am, for sparing me my life on the day he took my friend. But I still wish that I had gone with him, maybe even took his place. Oh, but destiny didn't lead me that way. And I'm not trying to say you're wrong, but heroes ain't the ones who make it home." He said Danny had a daughter that he'll never get to see, and I know that he was proud, but he was only 23. And they gave me this medal, pinned it on my uniform, but this piece of tin don't mean a thing, no, if it can't bring them home. So I don't mean to not sound grateful, 'cause the good Lord knows I am, for sparing me my life on the day he took my friend. But I still wish that I had gone with, maybe even took his place. Oh, but destiny didn't lead me that way. And I'm not trying to say you're wrong. Heroes ain't the ones who make it home. I don't mean to not sound grateful, 'cause the good Lord knows I am, for sparing me my life on the day he took my friends. But I still wish that I'd gone with him. I'd take his place. Oh, but destiny didn't lead me that way. And I'm not trying to say you're wrong, but heroes don't come home. please visit woundedwarriorproject.org and click on the Give Back tab. You can, thank you. Thank you guys so much. Thanks a lot, folks. God bless.